control. And then I was waiting for the gate number to up. I was waiting about an hour, and I asked a few people around, and that's when I found out then that the flight was cancelled. So I had no communication from Aer Lingus. So at that stage, then I was told to go back out to arrivals and find an agent, and that they'd be able to rebook me on the next flight, which was at 10:30 last night. So I spent about 2 hours looking for an Aer Lingus agent, and there was none in Charles de Gaulle Airport, not one. So I had to go then and try and seek a different flight. So I managed to get on an Air France flight this morning, but I mean, it was over €600. It was crazy.
And
so I'm just home now about an hour.
Oh, you're literally just back then in Galway?
Literally, yeah, literally.
Right.
Just had a cup of tea.
Very important.
I'm a bit luckier than your last caller.
Yeah, I know. Eoghan Corry, who's the editor there in Travel Magazine, is with us here as well on Lunchtime Live. And Eoghan, you were listening to Peter there, to his story, and to Aisling in the past few minutes. What is the story? I mean, like £600 for a flight that you hadn't planned to pay for. Presume Aisling can get this money back.
Yeah, Peter and Aisling's story replicated throughout Europe, and both of them did exactly what they should have. There is an element, because airlines are so stretched, airports are so stretched, communications channels, as is quite clearly indicated by both Peter and Aisling, have broken down. It's a little bit of every man for himself. The precedent, the case law precedent of the rights that they have are in their favour. Under EU 261, airlines have to get you back and compensate, and there's no ambiguity about what they have to pay for food, accommodation, things like that. And while they have had pretty horrendous experiences, Peter's initial instinct, make your own way back in the absence of a communication from an airline, make your own way back and chase it down afterwards, is pretty much what I'd advise. The reality is that airlines are supposed to be in touch with you. They're supposed to email you. Short notice is not unusual, by the way. That happens a lot. Aircraft go tech, or crew go out of hours. That's a big issue with delays, which there were a considerable number of over the weekend due to air traffic control strikes in France. And airlines don't have much notice themselves about when flights will be cancelled. The real problem here is the breakdown of communication channels, Andrea.
So for Peter and Aisling, just keep the receipts, Eoghan, and just get on to Aer Lingus?
Absolutely, very much. And if there is a difficulty, go to the flightrights.ie, the website, the Commission of Aviation Regulation website. If they're being given, if they feel they're being given the runaround by the airline, this applies to all airlines, because Air France have a strike, had a strike over the weekend as well. And we had all the airlines were asked to reduce the number of flights in and out of France, and even over France. It affects Barcelona, it affects Italy as well. So there were quite a few unexpected calculations. Not a hell of a lot, by the way, Andrea. It's been, to lose the 10 flights in each direction that we lost yesterday in a day of 320 flights is not unusual in aviation. It's what aviation's good at. It's recovering from this. They cope with weather events and strikes a lot. The real issue is that customers who are very accommodating, they understand these things.
Yeah.
But when the communications channel breaks down, that's when people get frustrated.
That's what Peter's point is. There is here's the number to call, but preferably don't call us at the minute kind of stuff.
Yeah, Andrea, they both did the right thing. I mean, the direct tweet in recent years has been the way to make a contact, and also the web chat. What we saw over the years was airlines taking less staff off phone centres and answering phones. Okay. But if you're running out of cabin crew and pilots, which all of the airlines are, British Airways had to cancel 10% of their summer schedule, and EasyJet cancelled hundreds of flights last week. But if you're running out of cabin crew and pilots, you're probably running out of people to answer the phone instead.
Stay with us, Eoghan, if you don't mind, because there's quite a number of people now getting in touch with us actually about this very issue. I assume these are going to be similar stories to Peter and Aisling. 1800 453 106 is the number to call. I'm just going to take a short break. And we're talking about Aer Lingus, which had to issue an apology. This is for multiple cancelled flights to and from Dublin Airport over the weekend. And there's lots of you getting in touch with us here, sharing your stories, those affected. 1800 453 106. I spoke to Peter and Aisling there a few moments ago. The editor of the Air and Travel magazine, Eoghan Corry, is still with me on the programme. Eoghan, there's plenty of texts coming in now from people who are due to fly out this week, and they're wondering, are they too likely to face these cancellations?
You can't say for certain that a flight won't be cancelled, but the number of flights that have been were cancelled over the weekend was small enough. Our big problem, Andrea, is there's this big issue that every single aspect of the industry is under pressure. Famously, Dublin Airport security queues, the airlines, the people servicing the airlines. Aisling pointed out something there, that when you're away with an Irish airline, while you're checked in by the Irish airline staff in Dublin, very often in an airport abroad, you're dealing with service staff contracted to that airline, and they don't have the same skill set in dealing with the problem. So all of those things have converged to mean that everything's under pressure, and it means that we're likely to see cancellations, we're likely to see delays, especially if the French air traffic controllers ramp up the number of strikes, and they are very good at striking. They went on strike continuously during the summer of 2018 and 2019. And unlike the well-publicised cabin crew strikes in Ryanair, which made no impact on the schedule, if air traffic control go on strike, they do a lot of damage to the schedule. We've had just under 400 air traffic control strikes since 2005, and it looks like they've chosen the summer to come back into action.
Eoghan, I see one of our listeners here, Dennis, got in touch with us. He actually left us a voice message just before the programme, and I think he should hopefully be in the air at this stage as we speak.
Hopefully, yes, Dennis.
Take a listen. He told us about his story.
Yeah, so we were meant to be flying on Aer Lingus yesterday via Heathrow to the States, and we arrived at the airport about 4.5 hours early because we had trouble with our tickets. We couldn't get online boarding passes, so we went to the airport early and tried the kiosks there. They weren't working, and then we queued up for 3 hours trying to get checked in. When we finally queued for 3 hours and checked in, they told us that the flight was cancelled and then sent us over to a customer service queue. We went on that queue for about another 2.5 hours, and we're told that they would rebook us on a flight. We told them we had business to do in the States that would require us to be there for three full days, and they said they would shift the flights. They went back and forth for about an hour and only shifted one of the flights. We raised this to their attention at the time, and they said, look, we don't have any more time to deal with you. You know, you can sort it out over the phone or through our chat system. So we went home and started that process and spent several hours on last night, phoned up Aer Lingus, spent 2.5 hours on hold, finally got an agent. When we explained the situation to the agent refused to change the second flight, so we would have our 3 days of business. So we're still hoping by the time we land that we might be able to get our return flight sorted, but not very hopeful because Aer Lingus are just, kind of pushing things on.
Well, I hope Dennis is in the air. It's 1800 453 106. Owen, what should Dennis do there in that case?
Oh, absolutely chase them down. I mean, the reality is that in the airport situation, sometimes you will be able to get, the onward, the return flight changed, altered. But if there's any complications about the class of ticket booked, if it's booked through a third party and all of that, it's a bit time consuming. And I can't go into Dennis's circumstances. It's surprising that he had a cancelled American flight yesterday. But I can't go into the circumstances, but he did the right thing. Get yourself there and sort out that business of the return flight while you're there. It's easily done remotely. It's easily done online when you're running into an agent who has the familiarity with the situation. Whereas at the airport, the priority of people at the airport is to sort out the passenger in front of them with their outbound flight as quickly as possible.
Musician Claire Sands is with us as well, Owen, here in the programme. Now, Claire, you're just back from playing Glastonbury. What's your story?
Hi, Andrea. How's it going?
Good, not bad.
Yes, Andrea, I was over on Friday night playing Glastonbury with the Hot House Flowers, and I came back to the airport.
Hello, Claire. Lovely to talk to you. Yeah.
Late afternoon, and that's where I found my bag that's been missing for nearly the last 6 weeks with Aer Lingus, and I just haven't heard absolutely anything from them for the last 6 weeks, so I just went and physically found it amongst the hundreds of other bags. And there it was, just lying there.
So sorry, so you'd obviously previously been away. You'd lost luggage.
I'd been in the States in mid-May, came back to Dublin Airport and didn't have my luggage. And in the luggage contained like all of my music gear, all of my costumes, stage equipment, like hundreds upon hundreds of euros worth of stuff that I really needed, like especially in festival season for the last couple of weeks. And I just have not heard a single word from Aer Lingus. So that's my second trip going to Dublin Airport and physically rummaging through the bags. So I thought it was a mirage when I came back from Glastonbury, and there it was, just lying there amongst the hundreds of other bags. But that seems to be the only thing that you can do, is actually just to go rummage through the bags and hope that your luggage is there. Because there's nobody on the other end of the phone, and unfortunately there was only one staff member there dealing with hundreds of bags, like the poor man, you know. So it's just, if anyone has lost luggage, I would say to just go to the airport and physically rummage, because I've been 6 weeks of trying absolutely everything in my power to get my bag back. So that would be my advice.
I presume, is that the advice, Eoghan, for people?
Definitely not, but it's so good. It is so good to hear a happy ending to that story. Claire, well done.
Enough, I know you might be disagreeing there, but somebody on Twitter actually wrote to me about an hour ago, and they just went and did the same thing and have also just found their bag.
Yeah. And it's funny, I've had other callers on this show, Viv, that started this conversation about a month ago, that flew from Australia and got in touch with us. It was over here in Kerry for a wedding. She actually got a flight back from Kerry to Dublin Airport to do rummage, exactly what you did. I'm not advocating that is a Dublin Airport or Aer Lingus policy, by the way. But I suppose, Claire, you got lucky. You just saw the thing sitting there.
It was just sitting there, it was sitting there. But there is hundreds upon hundreds of bags in the arrival. Like, it's sort of chaos, you know. So I'm really, really delighted and so fortunate and lucky that I did find it, just with the nature of everything that was in it. But now it's sort of the next battle of trying to get the compensation for the last 6 weeks, which there hasn't been anything of either. So, you look, fingers crossed at everything, but absolutely delighted to have it.
What is the position there, Eoghan, for Claire and many others that are weeks now without these bags?
Oh, well done, Claire. It's great that you got the bag. The reality is that if everyone descended to rummage, we would have another situation on our hands. The pictures have been all over social media. Bags everywhere, important bags, musical instruments stacked up there. The baggage handling system, is broken down, effectively broken down. Even before COVID and staff shortages, bags would be lost. You could have about 50 bags a day lost. That's gone way over 400, and a lot of them are. All of this system is automated, and barcodes are scanned, and it shows you what airports it's been through. And there was a colossal breakdown in Heathrow, through which an awful lot of Aer Lingus's transfer traffic comes. And normally, in the old days, if the tech broke down, there'd be a few bodies around to help go through bags manually and start looking at labels and things like that. Unfortunately, those excess people, those standby people, have all been used up by other functions. It's going to take a while to work through that baggage mess, but it's really the big problem is that a baggage person looking through with his barcode scanner, sometimes the label might have come off, won't see a bag as quickly and as easily as the person who actually owns the bag.
Yeah, well, like Claire there, Claire will know her own bag.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. 1800 453 106, the number if you want to get in touch with us. Derek is joining us as well. Derek, well, what was your story? What's your issue?
Well, unfortunately for me, it's Ryanair. And we were due to leave Malaga Airport Saturday morning, 10:35. And at 9:45, a message goes up on the screen saying, delay until 2000 hours estimated, which comes obviously as a big shock. And about an hour and a half after that, we began to get some communications from Ryanair, including vouchers. And that encouraged you, obviously, to go and get a coffee. There were two of us in my party, so you get €4 per head. Went off to try and get the non-alcoholic snack, etc., and they wouldn't work. No matter how hard the people in the restaurant where we were in Terminal 3 to get the machine working, no joy. A couple of hours later, we got another voucher, and that too wouldn't work. So I managed to convince the passport control police chaps to let me through to go to Burger King, and they tried desperately hard and got one of them to work. So obviously I paid and came back and went back on the airside, etc. So sitting around now, this would be about 2 PM, so trying to kill a lot of hours. Obviously I decided to go online to see if I could maybe jump onto one of the other Ryanair flights that were going. And I was encouraged to get into a chatbot, which I did. I joined at 268. After about 40 minutes, I was down to 26, 25. And there were people around me who were all whooping and saying, oh, yeah, you're getting there, you're getting there. I get to number 23, and I get bumped out of the system completely. And about 2 minutes later, I get a wonderful email from Ryanair saying, thanks very much for your inquiry. We will endeavour to respond to you within 15 working days. Whilst I was doing that, other people were trying to phone through and getting nowhere. So it was really frustrating. Wonderfully, everybody felt, well, we're in the same boat. Some of the horror stories that I listened to earlier with your previous callers weren't really as bad as, we weren't in the same case as they. And then, of course, you decide, well, coming home, we need to try and see if we're entitled to some compensation. And this is really where I was calling you from. Because no matter how much digging and Googling I did around EU 261, the issue around strikes, to me, seems a grey area.
Okay.
Initially, I understood that any strike was considered an extraordinary circumstance and airlines wouldn't have to pay compensation. And then there were some cases where the reverse happened. They did. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Where we are on that.
Eoghan Corry is with us, Derek, and I'm going to come to Eoghan. Maybe Eoghan might be able to answer that question for you in a moment. But I do just want to take a quick caller. Fiona's on the line as well, just in case Fiona's query is similar to yours. Fiona, what issue did you have with the airport there over the weekend, the airlines?
I'll be honest, the week before, I think we were just the cusp of it, the very start. We got an email. We were in Bruges and flying home on the Monday on the Ryanair flight. On the Sunday night, we got an email about the cancelled flight, and we were like, oh, let's say try and rebook onto another flight. So we had a quick look. My husband was on one laptop, or his phone. I was on another phone. He was checking airlines out of Amsterdam, because we looked at Rotterdam, Utrecht, Amsterdam, John and Van. He eventually got 2 seats out on the 520 out of Amsterdam. So I was looking at the train, but I managed to get the train journey sorted. So we turned up in Bruges in the morning, got a 10:30 train up all the way to Amsterdam, got in there about 2 o'clock. Our flight was 5:20, went for grab quick cuppa, got up to see that no gates or anything. The airport in Schiphol, I thought Dublin was bad. I've honestly never seen anything like it.
Are you serious?
It was unbelievable. Now, I'm ex-airline crew, so I've been in an
so
awful
you know
lot
the
of
story,
delays.
right? Okay.
Yeah, but it was unbelievable. They actually, when we got into the airport, they actually made us go back outside. And the queues in the airport were like the Disney queues, all in. Every part of the airport was just these Disney queues, up and down, up and down, up and down. They made to try to make us go back out, and that exact same outside. So I think we were in security for about 3 hours before we even got near security, and everybody's in the same boat. We had the Air India hockey team that had been, obviously playing hockey in Europe, trying to get back out to India. They're behind us. We great crack with them. Like, everybody was in lovely form. We were kind of thanking the ground staff, going, look, thank you for coming to work. This is pleasant.
I know.
They were just to see the faces. It was unbelievable. And there was people with babies. Like, me and John were kind of relaxed because I thought, well, look, if we get home, we get home. Now, like that, we paid another 400 each just for the flight and another 100 for our train fare up to Bruges, Amsterdam, which is fine. It was €500, which we didn't anticipate, but, we were going to get home.
You do, it's you and
we took
deal with
kids
it
home. Yeah, we took kids home. We needed to get home. We'd work on Tuesday. It was all a bit like hair and serum. We were still in security at 5:20. The flight was meant to take off at 5:20. We just kind of looked at each other and went, oh, well. Let's just get through.
We'll see where we're at 5:20, says you. Oh, you're still with us maybe just briefly there on, like, there's lots more stories, like Fiona's coming in and delayed flights. But just on Derek's point around the vouchers that you get from airlines to, get yourself a cup of coffee or something, and the EU 261 that he mentioned, just what's your advice to him? And
Derek's right. Compared with others, it's not bad, but a voucher that doesn't work is equally infuriating. If you have small children, it's as bad as a flight. It really is we don't understate that at all. Flightrights.ie are the people who police EU261 in Ireland. Flightrights.ie, very simple. Okay. The EU261 precedent that Derek found when he Googled is it's not that as confused as it was when it first came in, because the compensation issue is different from your out-of-pocket expenses. Airlines, if it's a strike, they're not forced to pay compensation, but they still have to pay the out-of-pocket expenses. The out-of-pocket expenses, sometimes they're disputed by the airlines. If they are, flightrights.ie is where you go. They arbitrate, and they're very savvy on this, well practiced, and there's a lot of case law right across Europe to set precedents for this. There isn't very much ambiguity. If you're out of pocket, you're out of pocket, you will get compensated. Yeah.
Flightrights.ie, well, that's a good site certainly to know for. Again, Eoghan Corry, thanks a million.
Always a great pleasure, Andrea.